As in other parts of the world, Canada's Muslim communities are predominantly younger, around at a reported mean age of 36 versus 46 for the rest of the population. 2 years ago, Canadian Muslims comprised 3.2% of the population, or just over 1 million. According to projections from the Washington-based Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life, they are set to increase both in number and proportion of the country to 2.7 million, or 6.6% of the population by 2030. In a January 30th speech introducing the controversial anti-terror bill, C-51, Mr. Harper said, "Jihadi terrorism is not a human right, it is an act of war." That exact phrase has been repeated verbatim 10 times in the House of Commons by 10 different Conservative MPs in the last couple of months, according to Open Parliament, largely in defense of Bill C-51. The bill, which introduces a swath of new powers for Canada's spy agencies, passed in the House of Commons with Conservative and Liberal support on May 6th and is currently in front of the Senate. Not only have 4 former Prime Ministers and prominent Canadians expressed deep concern about this bill, but Canadian associations, business leaders, and a variety of experts have come out strongly against the bill. Rather than engage on the actual merits of the bill, the government has chosen to use political rhetoric to suggest that those who support or those who oppose it support terrorism, jihadi terrorism. University of Ottawa law professor Errol Mendez echoes and expands on the same point in his recent iPolitics piece about how politicians should avoid using these terms when he states, quote, "Giving them titles of practitioners of war or even jihadists is giving them credibility and a legitimacy that they may actually crave and which could attract others." In other words, it is an expression welcomed by terrorists who can then point to new recruits and say, "See, even our enemies say what we are doing is jihad." This is an extremely corrosive approach that casts a pall of suspicion over all Muslims, or those perceived to be of Islamic orientation, by creating an ethnic and a religious profile of terrorists. We do not hear, for example, as much about the fact that CSIS, as it was reported recently, is more concerned with lone wolf attacks by individuals motivated by the hate ideology of white supremacists. Did you even hear about that? And that in order to change the way our fellow Canadians see Canadian Muslims, it is essential to reframe the public discourse. And in so doing, we change what is considered as being conventional wisdom. Back to what George Lakoff, who says, quote, "Because language activates frames, new language is required for new frames. Thinking differently requires speaking differently. Reframing is not easy or simple. It is not a matter of finding some magic words. Frames are ideas, not slogans. Reframing is more a matter of accessing what we and like-minded others already believe unconsciously and making it conscious and repeating it till it enters normal public discourse. It doesn't happen overnight. It is an ongoing process. It requires repetition and focus and dedication." The Quran frequently addresses this reality in verses such as chapter 49, verse 13, which states, "O humanity, we have created you from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may know each one another. Verily, the most honorable of you in the sight of God is the one who is most righteous. Verily, God knows and is aware of all." This last point of this verse is particularly poignant in that it highlights that it is ultimately God who knows who is most righteous, with righteousness based on our conduct and speech. In the Quran, Christians and Jews are recorded the respectful honorific of people of the book. According to the Islamic tradition, when each prophet came to a people, they always spoke from the phrase, Ya Qawmi, or O my people, an inclusive term which referenced all of them, not just the Muslims. To those who argue when we are discussing, for example, the issue of violent extremism, that it is being politically correct and that we have to name it in order to tame it, I would respectfully submit that yes, we have to name it. But the religiously based labels that they are choosing to identify the enemy with are imprecise and do not accurately reflect or identify who is perpetrating or promoting violent extremism as a means to a political or military end.